And that's at least the first 5 reasons of why I'm jealous of Fredward. All right, so RJ, that was a great question. Normally, I'm going to have your eyes up here for just a second. You don't have to draw to yours, okay? Normally, when we have our chromosomes line up in these pairs like this, they split right here. That's normal. Now, sometimes there's this thing called nondisjunction where they don't split the way they're supposed to. So here, normally we would get 1x and 1x. That's what should happen. But check it out, it didn't. These did not separate, so we wound up with one of them empty. It could happen in meiosis 1, and it's usually going to happen here because this is where the actual splitting happens. It will happen if we get nondisjunction. It's going to happen in that anaphase where they separate. Okay, in meiosis 2, just coming back together. Let's say we had our pair of homologous chromosomes, so 2 chromosomes, and they do split correctly. And yesterday we made the decision that instead of drawing an X here, I just draw 2 strands. 2 sides of the X are just not X'd. Okay, in this case, is everything still good from here to here? That's the way it should have gone, right? It X's and they each went to their own spot. Okay, so when we go through meiosis 2 and we get to our gametes, our half the numbers, we see this one splits correctly. 1 strand of X went here into a new cell, and 1 strand went into a new cell. If these did not separate right here, where I'm claiming my nondisjunction happens, which one, it doesn't matter which we pick, which one of these do you want me to put this chromosome in? So left or right, it doesn't matter, whichever one you go with. Okay, let's say they didn't split and both of them are here. This is now empty. Okay, in this situation, remember, these are not A's, these are little sperm cells, other gametes. If I have 1 strand of DNA in this egg and 1 sperm cell, what comes out in the end? 2, which is what we should have. Okay, this is a new fertilized egg with 2 chromosomes of the same type, which is exactly what we should have. Okay, the second one, 1 chromosome or chromatid, however you want to think about it, plus 1 sperm makes us have 2 once we're there. How about this one? 1 sperm joins with nothing. How many chromatids? 1. This is monosomy. Mono. This one, we had 2 strands of material. A sperm brings in another one. Now we have how many? This is trisomy. Okay. In either of these situations, because we have it here, like you're always okay to write. If you're okay with tri, meaning 3 of them, based on what we have written next to it, I wouldn't bother writing it again. Okay. In this situation, on the second nondisjunction that we saw, are there, for lack of a better word, genetically normal children? Anywhere on the right side? And normal is not the right word because just because you have different chromosomes doesn't mean you're abnormal, but genetically I would argue that it is. These offspring right here, whatever they are, these 2 are what we would expect, what normally happens. Everything worked out. These ones are not. Okay. Cool. So we are so close to being done with this chapter. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of glad. Okay. Now, as we look at stuff, we saw yesterday, I didn't write them down, but we talked about a few of the diseases. I can write them down if you want to. Entirely up to you guys whether you want me to. Okay. I'm going to zoom out so I can clear my screen just a little bit. Nondisjunction results in wrong numbers of chromosomes, which depending on the situation, give me one disease that you know that it forms. Not the case, huh? They're genetic diseases. Down syndrome is trisomy. If you get 3, if somebody has an extra chromosome on specifically number 21, they have trisomy, they are a person with Down syndrome. Okay. Other diseases are scarier, that lead to death and more severe intellectual disabilities. Cool. Not cool for that, but just cool in general. It's not cool at all. All right. Everybody okay with this to move forward a little bit? Now, remind me, and I know we've hit this a bunch, how many chromosomes does each person have?
46.
Okay, so recall, humans have 46, and I'm going to write chromosomes, but there's another word that I think I like to use more because it's easier to see and make sense of, because what we call a chromosome can be strange. When I talk about chromosomes, I like strands of DNA. Every cell, you have 46 little strands of DNA. They come in pairs, so you get 23 pairs to make that 46, but 46 chromosomes or strands of DNA. Now, of these 46 strands of DNA, okay, 44 of them are known as autosomes. Okay. Within our autosomes, this is every physical trait and characteristic within you. How muscular are you? What's the color of your eyes? What's the color of your skin, your hair? All of that is determined somewhere in those 44 chromosomes or those 22 pairs. Okay. We are 2 chromosomes short, though. 44 of them dictate all that other stuff. The last 2, they don't even show up as a number when we look at the karyotype. Anybody recall what the last 2 are? And I'll zoom up here in a second or scroll up, and hopefully you will. I'm waiting to see when people are done writing. Okay, I'm going to go back up to a karyotype. Here they are. They're showing the pairs of them, right? So we have 22 pairs, and the last one, the last pair here, is not numbered. What do these do? X and Y? Good. So we have 22 autosome pairs, or 44 autosome chromosomes. 44 of them are autosomes, and 2 of them are sex chromosomes. Now, we have chromosomes that dictate whether we get male or female chromosomes. Whether we wind up male or female. Okay, now looking at this, it turns out that from time to time, and this, I know we mentioned it briefly, there was controversy at the Olympics this summer with boxing, specifically with women's boxing, right? People present it as if it was a man boxing with the women. That is not at all what happened. Depending on your news, I'm not trying to be political, but there's something different about this person. But it wasn't that there was a man that was boxing with women. That is what it was presented, not the case. In this situation, we saw a moment ago that sometimes chromosomes don't split correctly. And it depends on the chromosome, and you don't have to know these, but if it happens at chromosome 13, it's called Patau syndrome, and you get death, essentially, less than a year of life. If it happens at chromosome 18, right here, you get Edwards syndrome, again, less than 1 life, or less than a year lifespan. If it happens at this chromosome, you get Down syndrome, which is normal, almost life expectancy. There's still some intellectual disability, but they can happen at all these. There is also the possibility that it happens here. So when we're looking at these sex chromosomes, we're just going to make a small little look into this, and we're going to say, hey, what if we get nondisjunction where things don't split the way they're supposed to? Nondisjunction with sex chromosomes. Now, the good news is that we actually saw this, and we can use that picture from above. As we look at it, we only had 1 chromosome here. Okay, in this picture, we have 1 chromosome from each person, so a pair of homologous. If this were the sex chromosome, check it out. We could call one of them X and one of them Y. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to say that the black ones are X. So check it out. We'll look here. This one, and I don't have 2 different colors. I can see there's different colors. Could this be XXY? Yeah. It could be. Could this, and I know the colors don't match, but could this be XYY? Yeah. Could this be X and then nothing? No. Time out, look again. Monosomy, it could be X and then nothing else, or it could be Y and nothing else, right? Okay, in this situation, if we look at our nondisjunction and view it with just calling them X for female and Y for male, we can see that there's some random outcomes that happen. So, turns out that we call these genotypes. Now, this is just genetic formulation. The genotype that we're looking at is with our sex chromosomes, and we're just going to consider these. If everything works well and the non-disjunction either didn't occur or it occurred more like this, is it possible that, I'm going to change color so I can remember that we added this. Is it possible that this came out as XX on the second one? We had a normal offspring. It could be XX, right? In XX, what would that be? If you're a person who has two X chromosomes, what's the outcome? Standard, regular, run-of-the-mill female. I'm just going to say female. Okay. Alternatively, though, one of the situations, and I'll put them all back up here just so we can see them. We could have XX, we could have XY, we could have X naught. And then here, I don't remember, we had XXY. I'll write them below or above, easier. XXY. This one could have been XYY, X naught, Y naught. And then this one could be XXX, I suppose. Like, we see that there's all these different variations. Okay, XX is a typical standard female. Okay, in contrast with this, we saw a situation where maybe the X came, but there's nothing else to go with it. I'm going to call this XO. Just nothing else exists. Now, thoughts. Is this male or female? Mix. So, it won't be mixed. I can see where you would possibly think that, though. This should be female. There's no Y chromosome to dictate male. So, as we're looking at this, we do get a female. But it turns out that if you're a female born with this, you get what is called Turner's syndrome. Okay, for this, I'm not going to go like crazy into it, but as we're looking at this, if a female has Turner syndrome, they are going to be taller than normal. Okay, for whatever reason, that's an impact of this. Beyond that, facial hair is going to be more prevalent. So a woman is more likely to have facial hair if she has Turner syndrome. Okay, other issues. There can be misshaped kidneys. There can be heart problems. And I was looking in the wrong spot. I'm sorry. Turner syndrome is going to make somebody really short. That's my bad. Okay. All right. I'm not going to quiz you guys on the types of diseases. What about this? This is trisomy. So 3 chromosomes instead of 2. This is monosomy. There's only 1. This is standard. XXX. Female. I agree. And it turns out that by total coincidence, there's no impact. It's just normal. You can have an extra X chromosome and not have any sort of disability. You might never even notice. Realistically, unless you get your genes tested, you won't notice. Okay, so other possibilities. We could run into XY. If somebody has XY genotype, it's a male. Standard, run-of-the-mill, regular functioning male. Okay, other possibilities. We could run into XXY. This is trisomy. Male or female, do you think? Male, typically because of Y chromosome. Okay, I'll tell you, it can be female as well, though, because the XX. So that's where it gets weird. For this is called Klinefelter's. Klinefelter syndrome. And the spelling might be off, and if it is, my bad. Okay, somebody with Klinefelter syndrome. They now have that male chromosome in them. They're going to be taller. This one, if it happens to be a female, they're going to be born and have extra Y, so they're going to make more testosterone. This is the facial hair. You will get women who have more facial hair. Like it or not, every woman has facial hair. It's just, it's not like men's. Okay, with that, if it is a male that's born with this genotype, the amount of estrogen, the female hormone that's produced, is way higher, and it leads to testicular atrophy. Okay, without being silly, and I don't think I always preface it with this. Obviously, testicles, we know what they are. What's atrophy? Do you guys know what if you've never heard it, that's okay. Death. If a male is born with Klinefelter's, they will have testicles, but their testicles will die. They just won't be able to reproduce. They die. Okay, so that can happen. Other situations, which this one is where the controversy came from. XYY, I'm sorry. Thoughts? Male, female?
No, male.
Has to be a male because you couldn't be XX or XY. This is going to be a male. Turns out, once again, no impact. This is a male that's just normal and healthy. Okay, and there's one more possible situation, and I'm out of space here, which is perfect. Maybe we get Y and nothing else. This one is not viable offspring. It will not be born. This is death. Okay, in these situations, Klinefelter syndrome, with a little, could be a female with more testosterone. This is still a female. Okay, they didn't do anything. They didn't cheat. They might be stronger than other females with a little bit of extra.
Can a boy be born with XXY? Or no, X.
Yep, this could be a boy.
No, like yeah, like X. Never mind.
So XXY could be. XXY could be male or female.
Okay.
XX, and that's because, and I assume that you can see it, but this is a female.
Yeah, I was.
Or maybe it's these two that really make the determination.
Yeah.
Now, there are some very low possibilities that somebody's born with both female and male sex organs. Very rare for humans, but it's called a hermaphroditic, is what it is. Okay, lots of plants. I know I mentioned yesterday about the pollen.
Yeah.
Lots of plants really are hermaphroditic, which means they'll make pollen and buds that make their own seeds from themselves. Okay, all right. Now, last little piece. We are pretty much there. Imagine, if you will, and we'll just draw a picture. Okay. Whoa. You have a lot of cells in your body. Any idea on the number? Trillions. You have trillions of cells. Now, my doctor friend, microbiology, consciousness is a big philosophical, huge issue, especially with AI and machine learning. Like, that's getting more mainstream now. You're conscious, right? I assume you are. I am. Do you think you're conscious? Okay. You're made of a bunch of cells. Are your cells conscious?
No, probably.
I don't know. My microbiologist doctor friend is convinced that our consciousness is just the collective consciousness of all of our cells. Like, it's crazy, but ants are essentially the same. All ants serve the same purpose. Wasps don't talk to each other, but if you've ever seen like a bee's nest trying to defend themselves, they'll all open their wings and at the same time and different times they'll close them to make it so it looks like the hive is like buzzing and flashing light. Have you guys ever seen what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. I'm going to hook you up real quick, RJ. I'm not going to give you guys homework this weekend. We will do like a practice test review thing on Tuesday because we're going to do bread on Monday. Okay, so last little piece. We're going to talk and define for ourselves this big idea that's called cellular differentiation. Differentiation. Okay. Now, there is some awesome stuff that goes on. If I needed something in my body replaced, I need to get cells of that type, right? Like, if I want to get a skin graft because I had a really bad burn, you're probably not going to put brain cells on my skin because brain cells are different than skin cells, right? Bam, Bam, if you need to go get a drink, feel free. Oh, man, he's zonked. I don't want to throw anything. Will you tap him? If you need to go get a drink, feel free, okay? All right, so for the cellular differentiation, we're going to look at this with a picture, but we're just going to say that this is the process that makes special cells, or specialized. Okay, so this is super crazy that it happens, and I'll see if you guys can help me find the controversy in this. It was really controversial about 20 years ago. Specialized, I was writing controversial cells. All right, so specialized cells. Now, we'll see what that means here in a second, and I'm whether I write it or not, your skin cells are specialized. They've been made into skin. Your brain cells have been made into neurons or brain cells. But they all started from an egg and a sperm, right? So check it out. Something awesome happens. And I'm not going to draw a crazy picture, but let's just say here we have an egg. And then here we have a sperm cell. Okay, it is going to go in. Okay, they're going to fertilize. Now, the second that happens, we get fertilization. We now have a single cell that has all the chromosomes it needs. Now, I'm more than one cell, and so are you. So once fertilization has actually happened, the cell has to start making more. And it builds them up, right? They start going through, is it meiosis or mitosis, to just start copying themselves? Or does our egg and our sperm cell come together and immediately start making more eggs and sperm? Or does it just start making a person? It starts making the person. So we just have to have them split. We don't have to cut the chromosomes in half or anything yet. They will eventually, but check it out. They fertilize. So I'm just going to say in an arrow, it's fertilized. Okay, once it's fertilized, you have one big cell, essentially, and it has to start dividing. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit. We're going to go like 100 or 150 cells that it's divided into that many. I'm not going to draw them all out, but check it out. We have one big cell that has become this. And through the process of mitosis over several hours, our now fertilized egg cell has gone and divided itself a bunch of times, and we get a bunch of cells now. Okay, this has a name. This is called a blastocyst. Okay, this is 100 to 150 cells that have just copied themselves right after fertilization. So we're talking hours or maybe a day after fertilization has happened, long before somebody would know they were pregnant. Okay, from here, it turns out that we get a little bit fancier, and this picture is going to be hard to differentiate at least a little bit, but we get, instead of just a bunch of cells here, they start to form membranes, and a little bit harder to tell, but we get a larger cell here that has all the information, or a larger piece, and it's kind of like a blastocyst, but we start to kind of mellow out in the middle. Okay, we have moved on to what's called a gastrula. Okay, last one, because this is where everything is awesome. Right now we have all the cells same type. They're just cells. Okay, it's not skin, it's not hair, it's nothing yet. However, this gastrula, as it continues to divide, I'm going to sneak out this way, it can divide into nerve cells, neurons. So we have a choice right now where we have to differentiate between the types of cells that it's going to become. This gastrula splits. Sometimes, some of them will split into make neurons. Some of them will split into skin cells. Any other specialized cells? Certainly we have nerves, we have skin. Anything else you have? Hair, skin, muscles. All of these come from the same thing. So our body has to choose, hey, here's a bunch of cells. Let's tell them what to become. They can become anything they want. Like, not figuratively speaking, like motivational, literally. We're going to pick up here. The controversy, if you've ever heard of it, we are talking about what are known as stem cells at this point. Stem cells. Okay, they can become whatever they want. Cool. All right, that's it. Be prepared for bread on Monday. I'm going to make a practice loaf for myself tomorrow, and then over the weekend, I will have it lined up so that Monday morning we'll come in and we'll roll it, and then we'll bake with Miss V.